garage today. Today we're going to do an unboxing and install of this Barnett Scorpion Clutch on a Sportster 1200. So Barnett's clutch part number for this, which should fit pretty much all Sportsters, even the 883, is 60730100091. These are pretty easy to install. This one doesn't have a basket. The baskets get a little bit more intricate on install. So basically, this is going to make your bike feel much better on the clutch. The clutch pull will be easier. It's going to engage better. And overall, it's just going to work better for a Harley. I got one in my Dyna. This is for a Sportster, but the process for installation is pretty much the same for whether you're putting it in a Dyna or a Sportster. So let's get this box opened up and see what's inside. So let's cut the bottom down here. And so we've got your sticker that just fell, the installation guide. So you got the installation guide and the parts that come in there, torque specs and all of that. Then you have your clutch pack with pressure plate and inner hub. So we'll do all this. And we've got a couple extra sets of springs. So we'll use the correct ones for what they want. This engine isn't built, so we'll probably just go with the middle weight springs. No need for the heavier ones for a harder clutch pull, and we won't use the soft ones. So that's all that's in the box. Let's get going on putting this in the bike. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do while we're getting ready to take everything off the bike is we're gonna disassemble this and we're gonna soak the friction plates in oil. So we're just gonna take all these out, put them off to the side, and we're going to pull the pressure plate off and we're going to pull the pack out. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to take all of the plates here and we're going to put them in some oil. And notice you have one small one in the back. That's going to be for your judder springs here. Notice this judder spring, the concave side is towards the outside of the bike. So you got a ring here and then your spring, and then this would be the last plate that goes in there. So remember that when you're putting it back together. And we're just going to take a little bit of oil here and just pour it in. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure they get over all the friction plates here. And we'll go back and we'll spin these another time throughout the assembly process just to make sure we got everything. But for right now, that should be good. So we'll just let those soak for while we're doing the disassembly. So let's go over to the bike. You can pause it. All right, so Nate's going to do some of the work. I'm going to video, but the first thing you're going to do is drain the oil out of the primary. So remember, this isn't your engine oil. This is your primary, so this is going to be a 5/8 inch socket that he's using. And so he's going to just drain out all the oil. And while the oil's draining, he's going to take off the 2 bolts for the foot peg. He's going to take the shifter off, and I think that's it to get the cover off. So we'll let him do that. And if you can see, Nate already marked this with a black marker. That way we put the shifter right back on where it came from. So a little trick there for you to make it easier when you're putting your bike back together to know where to line stuff up. And if you can see, he's having a little trouble getting the shifter off, so he's just going to use a flathead screwdriver and pry a little bit. Sometimes these things get stuck, so you have to kind of work them out and use a flathead. There it goes, it's coming. Don't feel bad if you're having trouble getting it off. Sometimes they're not easy to just slide on and slide off. So now that we got that off, the next thing we're going to do is take out the bolts around the derby cover and disconnect the clutch cable from the adjuster under there. So Nate's just putting the drain plug back in. It seems like it's stopped draining oil, so we're just going to lightly put that back in there. And we are going to pull out all of these screws. I like to start here and work my way this way, and then you're just left with the you're just left with the top middle one. Okay, so now that we got the derby cover off, watch out for your gasket here when you're putting it back together, but for right now we're just going to take it off, set it off to the side. And the first thing you're going to do is just take the spring adjuster off right here, so that comes out. And then the next thing you're going to do is loosen the adjuster screw. So you want to find a skinny flathead, that way it can go inside of the adjuster bolt. And again, it's reverse thread, so it's going to come out this way. And it's just spinning. Put your screwdriver in there, it's just spinning. There you go. All right, so now that that's out, you can pull the clutch ball and ramp out. So this will just come out as an assembly. And it's all held together, but you're just going to disconnect the clutch cable. All right. So next thing that we're going to do is we are going to pull out all the screws all the way around the cover. Don't forget that if you're installing this, you are going to need a new primary gasket. So we have a new primary gasket for it. Don't forget that when you're getting ready to do your install. So there's no need to actually take the clutch cable out of the cover. So we're just going to leave that, and we're going to twist it around and set it on the lift. But now that all the screws are out, Nate's just going to pull the cover. Watch out when you do this too, because you're still going to have some oil left in there. So we'll put under 2 oil pans just to try to not make a mess everywhere. But you'll see as he pulls the cover off, you'll get some oil that comes out of there, even though you just drained it. So now that the cover's off, he's just going to put this off to the side. And I'll take the gasket off, and we're going to toss this. Like I said, we don't want to reuse this. Just be careful. And when I took the gasket off, the spacer came out. So we're going to take that back out, put it there. And all right, so now that we got the cover off, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to disassemble the clutch by using this tool. You get these cheap on Amazon. Check the link below. I'll have a link for one of these. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to put it on here, and it's going to push the spring plate inwards, and then we're going to remove the clip. So Nate's going to go ahead and throw it on there. We'll show you how to put it on and how to use it. So he's going to use a long, skinny flathead, and he's going to put it down the center of the shaft, and then he's going to go ahead and just screw it in there. So he's just going to screw that all the way down, and that's good. Then he's going to go ahead and put the tool on, slide it through, put the little spacer with the bearing in there, and then put the handle on. And then all he's going to do is just tighten it down, center it up, and tighten it down. He actually might need a wrench to hold the center part. And he's just going to tighten it down, and that's going to compress that spring plate. And now you can see he's got some play in here. Like a lot of the times with these, you can actually just pull them out with a flathead as opposed to the snap ring pliers. So I'm just kind of doing a little trick here to save a minute. So you can actually just use a flathead to pop that clip out. So now that that's off, you just pull the whole assembly off. And we'll disassemble this later by just doing the reverse orders. This clutch was completely smoked. You can see the plates are, the friction's all worn off. So this is why he wanted to get a new clutch in here. And he's just gonna do the upgrade to the Barnett. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pull off the stator sprocket bolt, the flywheel cover here. This is gonna be a 28 millimeter, and this is gonna be standard thread. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we got that off. The next one we're going to take off is the clutch nut. This one is going to be counter threaded. So it's going to be, to the right is going to be loosening. So we're going to go reverse on this one. And there's a washer in the back there, so don't lose that. And what we did before is we marked where the chain meets the clutch. And we also marked where this chain meets the stator cover here. So basically we're going to pull this all off as one piece, and we're going to go ahead and set it on the ground. That's going to be magnetized where Nate's pulling, so it is a little bit harder to pull off than my side. Just jiggle it a little bit. Oh. All right, so Nate's going to go set that on the ground. All right, so we've got this on the workbench. Nate's going to flip it over and pull all the clutch plates out. And you can see his spring plate completely exploded. This is a huge, huge issue with the stock Harley clutches. And basically what happens is there's a plate in there that's kind of got some springs in the middle, and all the rivets blow apart. So this is a big, big flaw that Harley has. It's to create less judder or vibration in the clutch. Barnett actually sells, it's what's called an extra plate kit, which eliminates this spring plate and just gives you one extra clutch friction plate. You can see his plates are completely, completely smoked. So he needed a new clutch really bad. He wanted to upgrade to the Scorpion, which is what I would suggest everybody does. So now for the fun part is we are going to press out. We're going to press out the inside of the inner hub. So this inner hub needs to get pressed in and out. Now this might be the only tool that most people don't have at home, which is a hydraulic press. You could usually go over to your local mechanic, whether it be an auto or motorcycle, and they can press it out. It really only takes a few minutes to do it. But before we do that, we're going to pull this snap ring off, and so that we can go back to the press and we'll pull it out at the press. So Nate's just going to pop this snap ring off. There we go. So snap rings off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to press the clutch from this side, and we're going to make sure that we get some support over here on the clutch main gear right here. So Nate's just lining up the size socket we're going to use on our press, which we're going to probably need a smaller one than a 27. So maybe a 22 to press that out. And then again, when we go to press it in, we'll press it in on this side. So we're going to get to the press, and I'll show you guys how to do it. All right, so we've got this set up on the press. We used a 24 that's pretty much centered over the inner hub. And right now we just have it setting kind of on the teeth. we're going to just get it started, and then we're going to readjust this as we go down. So Nate's just going to kind of ratchet the hydraulic down. If you're doing this yourself, just if it feels like you're pushing too hard, you probably are. But you could see this one's coming out super easy. So Nate's going to go until it stops, which it just did. He's going to release it, and we're going to readjust where the clutch is sitting. We're going to readjust where the clutch is sitting, so to make sure that we can pop out the inner hub. So what we need to do is just resituate our metal plates here. So what we're going to do is we're going to probably put them like this, and we're just going to try to get it just on the edge here. And we're going to look underneath and make sure it's not hitting. It looks like we might hit just a little bit on this side, and then he's going to go ahead and he's going to start again. So yep, and that's it. So now we've removed the old one. We're going to bring it up, and we're going to get the new one set in there. So we've got the new one set into the basket here, the new inner hub. Nate's just bringing it down. We've lined it up pretty straight. It kind of sat in there really good, so you didn't have to worry about the alignment. And Nate's just going to slowly bring it down. And if he feels any kind of weird resistance, he's going to stop, and we're going to just inspect it. But it is a tight fit, so it is going to make some noises going in. And he's going to just go until it bottoms out. And it's just bottomed right there. So we're just going to inspect it. He's going to lift it up again, only a little bit. And we're going to just pull our socket off there. And we're just going to look for the clip. And you can see where we're going to put the clip back on. We're in the perfect spot. So that's pressed in there. So it bottomed out. He felt the difference of the tension, that it wasn't sliding anymore. And now we're in there. And our inner clutch hub spins freely. So we're good to go. The next thing we're going to do, since his old clutch was blown up, we're going to just use some cleaner, some contact cleaner, carb cleaner, whatever you want to use. And we're just going to clean up the basket real quick. So we're not going to show you that on camera. Everybody knows how to clean. You've been doing it since you were 2 years old. So just go ahead. We're going to clean that up, and then we'll get you set up and ready to put it together. All right, so inner hub is in. The last thing to do after pressing it in is to put the circlip snap ring on the back of it. So Nate's just going to flip it over and install the snap ring. This is a very, very, very hard snap ring. It's super, super stiff. So you've got to use a lot of pressure to get it on there. Perfect. So now our snap ring's in there. It's seated all the way. He's just double checking that it's snapped into place, and it looks pretty good to me. So we clean this up. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start doing the plates. Again, we got our pre-oiled plates. We're going to start with the silver base ring, which is going to be the backing to the judder spring. So that's going to go in first. Then the white dot on the spring for the judder spring is going to face out. So it's going to be basically your concave is going to be sitting like this. So it's really hard to see in the video, but white dot's going to be facing out on you. Okay, and then we're going to start with the thinner friction disc so that it sits around the judder spring. And then we're going to go alternate steels and frictions all the way in. Now what Nate's doing is feeling, usually one side is sharp and one side is rounded. Doesn't matter which way you put them in there as long as you do them all the exact same way. So whichever way Nate's going to do them is he's going to do them all, whether he does the rounded side out or the rounded side in. So he's just going to put them in order really quick, feel which side is a little bit sharper. And this goes with all clutches usually. For most cases, one side's going to be sharp, one side's going to be rounded. So he's just making sure they're going to be all the same way so they get in there the same way. Perfect. So now he's going to go ahead and throw a steel plate in there. These are all going to be the same, so it doesn't matter which order you put these in. The only plate that matters is going to be that first plate. So notice that we're ending with a steel plate. So just keep that in mind all the way through. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to go put it on the bike before we put the pressure plate on, because we are going to have to put the nut on there. So we're going to go take this back over to the bike. So we've got it right here. Just make sure your splines line up. So Nate's going to try to do this by himself. It's sometimes easier with two people, but you just need to get everything lined up because you have teeth on the flywheel there, and then you also have teeth on the clutch. So sometimes it's easier if you look inside and see where everything lines up. So that looks like there we're lined up there, and then Nate's gonna work on the front here. All right, so now that we're both on there, we're gonna just push this all the way on. This one's all the way on. Next thing we're gonna do is we are gonna go ahead and we're gonna put our nuts back on. And that one was regular thread, no washer or anything under there. This one had a washer, and remember, it's reverse thread. So we're gonna just go ahead and tighten these up, and we'll be back in just a second. We're gonna tighten them down, and then we'll show you how to put the pressure plate on. All right, so before we put the pressure plate in, we got the clutch on there, everything's tightened down. Before we put the plate in, we're gonna put the push rod here into the pressure plate. So that just goes in, and then there's a little snap ring that's gonna go on the other side that Nate's gonna put in. So we're gonna just throw that in really quick. It's a pretty weak snap ring. You might be able to do it with your fingers or use your snap pliers. So it doesn't really matter as long as you get it all the way in there. Just use the snap pliers.
I was trying to see where it was.
So he got it in there with his fingers. It's seated around there. We're going to use the 6112 springs. These are the middleweight springs. So I think they call them silver springs. They are 70 foot-pounds, I believe. We're not going to go with the heaviest ones because the engine's not built. So what Nate's going to do is he's just going to go ahead and start all of these. These are 5 foot-pounds or 60 inch-pounds. So Nate's just going to start them all so that we don't have to sit there and ratchet them all in. He's just going to snug them down, and then we're going to go back through with the torque wrench and get them all to 60 inch-pounds or 5 foot-pounds. So we'll do this real quick. So 60 inch-pounds. And he's going to go in a crisscross pattern. So we tighten it down evenly. And our torque wrench doesn't click, so it just breaks away. And they don't call for any Loctite on these, so no need for Loctite. All right, so now that we got that on, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the cover on. So we start with the gasket. And I'm going to hold it a little bit. We got our fan on in here today, so everything's blowing around. Now notice that your tensioner is on the bottom of the cover. So what Nate's going to do is he's going to hold the chain up with his fingers underneath and get it over that. So it would be kind of hard to see, but just know that you got to push the chain up when you're putting the cover on. And so he got it, and then the cover will just slide right on there. If you're having trouble, you can always loosen up the adjuster here and lower it down. But usually in most cases, you can get the chain over it and get the cover back on there. So we're going to put in all these bolts really quick and torque them down, and then we're going to come back and we'll show you how to adjust the clutch. All right, so we got our cover on there. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to just collapse the clutch cable. So Nate's just going to break these free and make the cable as small as we can possibly make it. And then we're going to go ahead and adjust it from there. So he's going to bring the nut up, and then he's going to collapse it all the way. All right, so now that we're collapsed all the way, we're going to come down here and we're going to put the ball and ramp feed on there. So what he's going to do is he's going to kind of hold it together. On the Sportsters, they don't really come off. On a Dyna, it's on the other side. And he's going to put the cable in there. And then he's going to rotate it. And then what he's going to do is he's going to line the tab up, and he'll put it on there. Perfect. So that's in there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the nut in. And he'll need a skinny flathead to hold it while the nut gets tightened. And again, the way you screw it on, it's backwards. So now that he's got it all the way in there, what he's going to do is he's going to tighten it down until he feels some resistance. And then once he feels resistance, he's going to back it off a little bit. So he's going to go about 2 turns back. And the easiest way to adjust the clutch on a Harley is we're going to go to the lever, and we're going to hold it to the handlebar. And what he's going to do down here is he's going to start tightening this. And as soon as I feel the lever starting to pull off the handlebar, he's going to stop. So he's going to go ahead and tighten right now. Oh, you saw it just move. So that's going to be where we're going to stop. So now he's going to go down here, and he's going to go ahead and he's going to put his lock nut in there. And then he's going to go ahead and just take the screwdriver and tighten the lock nut in there. Now, the rest of the clutch adjustment is going to be done here in the cable. So what he's going to do is he's going to open up the clutch cable until we have our proper amount of free play in our clutch lever. So he's just going to keep going. And I'm going to watch our free play. So that's a little tight, so he's going to back it off. And right there. Should go in a little bit more. It's a little too much. Perfect. So you can see we've got some free play on our lever here. And he's going to go ahead and he's going to tighten down his lock nut. And that's it for the clutch adjustment. So now we've got our free play. And everything's tight. And the last things we're going to do is put the derby cover on and the foot pegs. All right, so we don't want to forget, we're going to put a quart of oil in here. We're using the AMSOIL V-Twin Motorcycle Oil 2050 here. So we're just going to put 1 quart of oil in here. That's all it takes. So Nate's just going to fill it up with oil. And if you notice, we got our gasket on here. We like to use a little bit of Maxima waterproof grease to hold this gasket in place. These can be a real pain to get to stay in. We found that grease works really good to hold it in place. So just use a little bit of grease. It'll make it a lot easier on you to do that. And then what he's going to do is throw the derby cover back on. I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on the plate to make sure our gasket doesn't fall off. Sometimes it's easiest if you're holding it and then put your screws in so the gasket doesn't slide off. And as you see, he's threading these in by hand. These are very, very easy to strip. The holes behind, the bolts, everything. So they don't need to be over tightened. And you really just want to make sure you do them, thread them, start them by hand. Because again, this cover seems to strip really, really easily. So He's just going to go ahead and snug them down in a crisscross pattern, not very tight. My philosophy is I'd rather have it leak just a little bit of oil than strip out a hole. Cool. So that's really it, guys. We're going to just go ahead and throw the foot peg back on and the shifter back on. And that's pretty much it. So it's not a super complicated install. You do need to have the press and the clutch tool and that kind of stuff. But yeah, really appreciate you guys watching the video. And we'll be back on the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, comment, all of that good stuff. And we'll see you on the next one.